morning. Well, this is Kylan Hunt with 3i Life. We are super excited to be bringing you another lesson today where we're going to be talking about awareness. We're going to be talking about developing personal and self-awareness. And it's, to be honest, this is one of the favorite topics that I have after several years of working in personal development, working with different people in this industry. I learned most of it the hard way. I learned that self-awareness was an amazing requirement to the first step of being successful in business and being successful in leadership, successful in developing teams and growing people. And we're doing a little test here this morning. We're doing some testing, and Rebecca's on our Zoom account. We've had some trouble with audio in the past. So we're going to test this and see if we can get it through into our live feed. Rebecca, how's it going in there? You got some feed coming in? I think you're muted, Rebecca, on your end on the Zoom side. You're muted on Zoom. There you go. There you go. How you doing this morning? Yeah, I can hear you good. Yes, I can hear you very well. Okay, so are you able to hear me then, Rebecca, right now? I'm guessing not. Okay. You're not coming through on Facebook? Can you hear me now? Okay, but it's still not going to be coming through on our live stream, right? Well, what are we going to do about that? We're going to have to figure out how to get you to come through. Well, let's try that then. Those of you that are watching on Facebook, isn't this cool? You got all these technical challenges you get to work through, and you guys get to be part of this with us because hopefully we can answer some questions here in the next 2 minutes. Okay, Rebecca, I changed an audio there. Any chance that would work? Maybe. Can you speak into your Zoom and maybe get something to go?
Yes, I'm talking into Zoom. Can you hear me on Zoom?
All right, now I'm not hearing you in the microphone.
Okay,
or in the
I can now
headset.
hear that on Facebook.
Is it coming through on Zoom or coming through on Facebook?
Yes, I can hear it on Facebook.
All right, very good. Well, then we just got a little bit of a difference in here because I can hear it through our Rode, through our audio. So now if we can hear it on Facebook and you can hear me on Zoom, then we should be okay and good to go, yeah?
Should be, yes.
All right, why don't you come on back in here and we'll keep things rolling.
Should be, yes.
Very good. That's awesome when you can get a few things worked out. Love it when a plan comes together, right? Not every day that a plan comes together, but we love it when it does. But anyway, back to the conversation at hand. I'm going to hand this over to Rebecca here in a minute, and I'm going to grab a cup of coffee and we'll get going. But yeah, personal awareness, self-awareness is an amazing, amazing tool. It's a gift, it's a skill, it's a talent that has to be learned and developed if you're going to learn to use it really, really well. There's times when we think about ourselves that we really, truly do know ourselves, and we're like, we're the one person in the world that we know. You don't understand everybody else, but sometimes our own self-awareness is the space that we need to learn the most and work on the most. And I've learned that is very, very true with me, for sure. So you want to give some thoughts on personal awareness? I'm going to grab some coffee, and then we'll get going.
Yeah. It's tough. It's a hard thing to to do sometimes is to look at yourself and think of the things that you maybe need to change, or maybe think differently or look at differently. And it's hard to do that self-awareness and that self-check. It's easy to spot other people's, or easy to tell them how they need to change and fix it. But to really look at yourself and deep dive into that, it's difficult. Because I can point out Kylan's flaws very easily. But pointing out my own to myself is,
Whose flaws can you point out? What were you talking about?
I can point out your flaws very, very easily. The numerous.
You know what's hard about that though?
What is hard about that?
It's sometimes hard to accept my flaws. You know that? It's important that somebody else point out a flaw, but man, it's hard to accept that you may have a flaw.
Yeah. I think there's times you like to say, yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. How do we sound? I might be a little hot. You want to put your headset on and see? I mean, I'm hot. I mean, that's why you're still married to me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it? I love it. All right. Does it sound a little warm to you? A little
No, I'm going to turn you down here a little bit.
bit?
How's that?
Yep, that works out totally good. Okay, cool. Okay. Very good, very good. It's personal awareness. So what did you have on the topic for it today, Rebecca?
Kind of what we've been just kind of chit-chatting about, and it's you have to know yourself to grow yourself. And you have to know who you are. And that's, sometimes that's a little difficult because not that we pretend to be somebody else, but we want to be something else for everybody else. So I think in that aspect of it, we kind of forget who we are. And when you start to analyze the things that you like, the things that you enjoy, the things that bring you joy and happiness, maybe it's not what you've been doing,
Well, it's not just joy and happiness, it's sometimes communication. We just had while we were trying to fix some of this, even 20 minutes ago, just full transparency, we had a disagreement on communication, right?
We very much did.
We had a disagreement on communication because I'm asking a specific question about, is this going to Facebook? And your response was, I can hear it through the microphones, but that didn't answer my question, right? And that caused tension between us, right? Because there was a lack of communication, and I needed awareness in my own self to say, okay, do I need to rephrase the question? How do I rephrase the question? How can I say this differently so that I can, get the answers that I really need? And the same with you, how can you respond differently to get the answers that we're really looking for? And when there's an awareness, a willingness of awareness to learn and grow, then you get through those tensions very quickly, right? But sometimes there's a lack of awareness that, hey, my question's not coming across right. I'm not being perceived right, or I'm not asking the question the right way, and then it causes this tension. When in fact all I have to do is just ask the question a different way, right?
Right.
So those are some of the things that we have to look at in personal awareness and say, hey, I can change to become better at any aspect of life. But in order for me to do that, I have to know what to change. And that's where the awareness comes into place. You have to know yourself. You have to know how you're influencing before you can change anything to improve that influencing factor. If you don't know it, you can't grow it.
Right.
So those are extremely important elements of personal awareness.
I agree.
So what else do you want to talk about in this subject today?
I don't think I'm awake yet.
You're not awake yet.
It was a very short night.
A very short night? Are you aware of that?
I am very aware
Very
of
aware
that.
of that. Okay.
But I'm also very aware, you said it and it, we're aware of the tension that it caused and get over it. And you get over the tension a lot quicker than I do. But I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. It takes me a little longer.
Have you ever, okay, so now that you're aware that it takes you a little longer, so this is, again, we're very transparent. We want to be transparent with people on here. So you're aware that it takes you longer. There may be times when that's okay. There's times when it's not as okay. So how do you work around something like that if you're aware of, it takes you a little longer to get up in the morning, to get going, to get things working? What can you do to make that better for you and for the people you work with?
One of the things that I have to do is just tell myself it's not worth ruining my whole day over. It was a little, irritation, and it's not worth ruining my whole day and my whatever I need to work on, or it's just not worth it. I mean,
Well, so let's put ourselves in the position of a business owner who shows up at work at 7:00, and he's got his 7:30 a.m. meeting with his sales team. He's got 25 people showing up in the room, and he's had a tough morning. He's had a challenging morning. What does that leader do when he's got 25 salespeople in the room and he's had a tough morning? He's not fully awake. His head's not fully in the game yet. He's struggling with that. He's aware of it. What does that person do in that environment?
Oh, you have to. And this sounds terrible. You either have to be over it or you have to pretend you're over it. Because if you're leading anyone and there is still tension in you for one reason or another, it's going to come across. They're going to feel it. They're going to know. They're going to, it's the same thing with a small child. They can feel when you're stressed. They can feel it. They know when you're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with your team. And it's not just even in business. It's in families. It's in when there's tension and there's stress because of one thing or another, everybody feels it.
Well, so what you're kind of saying is you may have to fake it till you make it, get through it, even if you're not feeling it, right?
There's times.
Would it be a better way to find a solution instead of the faking it? Is it possible to be aware of something, change something so that in that environment you're not having to fake it?
Absolutely. That would be the best way.
That would be the best way.
Yes.
How would a person go about changing that then to make it so that you move to the best way, not just an accepted way?
I think one thing that I've learned to do is I try not to take everything so personal.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to tell myself that's who they are. That's who they are. That's not who I am. So I try not to take everything personally.
Is the they being me in this scenario? Maybe.
Moving on. Maybe in some situations, yes. And I just have to accept that is who you are, and I know who I am.
Yeah. So let's think about this person though who's leading a team, and their 25 salespeople are there, and they've got all this stuff going on. What does that person have to change to make that work? And then I'm going to throw one more question at you, a question that's out of their control. That person has to be willing to change some things. Maybe they have to get up earlier. And they know that if they get up a little bit earlier, then they can do some exercise. And if they're exercising, get the blood pumping, then their head will be clear, their focus will be on, and they'll be ready for their meeting. Maybe that would work for some people. Other people may have to get up and not necessarily exercise, but they may have to, spend some quiet time, do some downtime, get their head ready for the day just through quiet personal development, or reading. Maybe it's reading scripture. Maybe they need time in prayer. There's a time there where that person, if they're aware of who they are, then they can make changes to prepare to invest time with that team, right?
Right.
And move to a best position instead of just an accepted position, right? Because that team wants you at your best.
Right.
The team wants you at your best. So that goes back to the 6 steps of personal development. The first step is awareness. Second step is making a commitment, right?
Right.
Third step is learning and implementing. So if you put that example, or if you're leading a team of people, you put that example into your process where you're aware, you make a commitment to change, you learn what you have to change, and then you implement what you're changing. That process you can take anything that's happening to you in life and completely change that element of who you are to get the result that you need, right? That's one example. Now, think about that same leader who shows up doing everything in his power to make sure his team is ready, and he's ready for the team. He's ready to serve. He's ready to be there for them. But then he's got 25 people, and 5 of them are not ready. 5 people on that team are just grumpy and drowsy and druggy and just not in the game. What does that leader do in that scenario?
I don't know. What do you do?
Isn't that a challenge? Isn't that a challenge? I mean, think about it. If you're that leader and you're coming into a team and you got 5 people on the team that are just, they're down and they're not with it, what do you do?
That's what I mean. What do you do?
So this has been an interesting study and a learn for me as I study how to develop teams and develop people. I was actually at an event in Arizona, I think it was. Excuse me. I was at an event in Arizona. Oh, this has been quite some time ago. And it was a sales team of actually about 60 people. It's a big sales team meeting. And I happened to be in the hotel. They were having a big conference there, and I was walking around really early in the morning. It was literally 5:30 in the morning. And I'm just walking around the hotel because I couldn't sleep and wanted to get out and just explore a little bit of this massive venue. So I'm just walking around, and I walk into this conference center where this group of people were. And it kind of hit me because it's like, man, it's 5:30, it's 6 o'clock, it's real early in the morning, and all these people are here already. Well, I just stood at the door and watched this group of people inside. And that's what they were doing. They were having a sales meeting that morning. And I was really blown away by the guy that was leading this group because he had everybody getting excited, which I thought was really interesting. And when I say excited, like physically excited, clapping. They had to yell or yell something out, like he was asking a question. He wanted a loud response back. And what he was doing is he was, in essence, getting the blood pumping, creating that excitement within that group because negativity was not acceptable. You could tell that from just the way he was expressing himself. And some people I know just won't fit into a culture like that. They're going to struggle because they're like, oh, this is not who I am. This is not who I am. Well, if that's the environment that they want to have everybody moving in the same direction of the same frame of mind, you may be in the wrong culture. You may be in the wrong career. You may be in the wrong business. You may be working for the wrong company if you don't fit into that type of culture, because it would be really hard just watching that team come together. I mean, they were doing jumping jacks. They did for about 5 minutes. They were clapping, they were yelling, they were jumping up and down. They were just doing all these physical things, and then it stopped. And they had their sales meeting. They talked about their goals for the day. They talked about their objectives. They talked about where they were going. They would ask specific questions about processes to any one person in the team. He would just holler out a guy's name and say, hey, what do we do in this scenario? How do we overcome this objection? How do we do this? How do we do that? And the whole team was like, yes. I mean, they were all on board together. And I remember thinking, that is amazing. That is so cool. Now, they were all in one physical place. If you had to do that with a remote team and you were doing it, virtually, that would be really hard to do. But man, just imagine if you could get your whole team excited about the day, excited about what we're about to do, excited about overcoming problems and overcoming objections, and the whole team gets together and leaves high-fiving each other because they know what they're about to do is going to be hugely important to their culture, to their customers, to society. I mean, it was just, it took about 15 minutes, and I just stood at the door. I have no idea if I was intruding or not. I probably was. I mean, I'm not part of their company. But I'm watching this sales meeting, and I'm like, this is so cool. And to me, it was a big learn for me, because when I'm leading a big team, I want everybody to be on the same side. I want everybody to be excited. I want everybody loving what they do. I want everybody loving everybody. It's like, it was so awesome to see that. And that's just one example. Now, maybe your personality style isn't rah, rah, rah. So how do you get your team going? How do you get your teams motivated when there's somebody down? When there's somebody, that one rotten apple can ruin a whole basket really fast. So how do you fix those kind of things? How do you work through those type of scenarios and get your whole team moving in the same direction? It can be really challenging sometimes.
It can.
So I've been rambling on here quite
Yes.
a bit. Sorry, but what are your thoughts on that? What's your take on that? And then we're going to open up Zoom. I think we just have a couple of people on Zoom this morning.
Well, I think one of the things with it is, we need to get back to what we were discussing about, since this is personal development.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are some things that we can do to help know yourself?
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that you can do to figure out who you are? Because I know you like to bring the business part of everything into it, but I think this is a discussion on becoming personally aware of
Very good.
personal things.
You're right.
And
Personal development.
So yeah, what are some things I think, we do the DISC assessment as one thing to help people to understand a little bit of who they are. I mean, it's not going to give you the absolute to the core know you, but it's going to give you a good idea. And you'll read through there and it's kind of amazing, the things that you look at and go, wow, that is me. And then there's some other times you'll look at it and go, no, that's not really me. But it just gives you a general idea. So I think, doing some kind of an assessment helps with that. I do think reading some, I don't want to say motivational books, but there are some really good motivational books. But just like this one, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, reading through there and and learning those steps helps you to reflect on yourself, to look at yourself and say, okay, what am I doing here that I shouldn't be, or what should I be doing? And I think that's another good way.
Yep. Reading is a tremendous way. I think, I've talked about this before. For me personally, and if all those of you that are watching on Facebook, if you have not heard from me, it's because I haven't been on Facebook. I actually took Facebook off my phone about 2 weeks ago, and I just haven't been on there. And part of the reason behind that for me personally, I had to get away from that. Part of my awareness was it wasn't a positive influence on me. I had to get away from that to move myself to a different place for personal growth. And it was, reading more. I was able to, invest more time in reading and studying, more time in preparing. So that was one of the things that I had to do, was move away from the digital platform, move more towards the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once you get, once you take that part out, then it does give you more time to read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I needed the time. That was a personal awareness thing with me. I needed more time to invest with the books and other things. There's also some business things, as you well know. I like the business side that I needed more time for. And Facebook to me was a distraction. And we're live streaming through Facebook, and we want all these people to watch. But at the end of the day, why are we on Facebook? Do we use Facebook, or does Facebook use us? What is that? What are we looking at?
Yep.
Are we using it the right way for the right things, getting the right things? And I wasn't, to be honest with you. I wasn't. It would indulge my time, and I was wasting part of my life scrolling through Facebook, and I just found it wasn't best for me. So those are things that I've personally become aware of, and I'm looking for ways to fix those things. So that's just an example too. What are some things that you can move towards? And by choosing to move towards one thing, you're moving away from another. And what are those things you're moving away from? What are the things you're moving towards? Right?
Yep.
So, all right. I think we have Dr. David Sloan is on Zoom with us today. David, are you available? I think we got a small Zoom audience.
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. A couple of hours in bed, longer in bed would be nice. I had a late finish last night.
Yeah.
But,
So what's your take on this topic?
Sorry? Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes. I'm guessing you can't.
No, I can't. That's okay.
Okay. So talking about awareness, I'm not sure if the Facebook audience can hear me either, but one thing I'm aware of is that I'm horribly unaware. And so I don't tend to read people's signals that well. You've got to be pretty blunt to get my attention, or I don't pick up on the subtle things. But one, I guess, technique that I've employed is to if I've got meetings, if I've got important meetings especially, I'll want to double team or triple team. I want to get other people in that meeting on my side who can read the signals and coach. And so I always find using two people is quite a good tactic for me. I can provide the technical, and they can provide the people sort of awareness things and prompt with the right questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reading, I mean,
Can't hear me.
what's that?
Hard for Kylan because he couldn't hear that response. But essentially, having multiple people in a meeting is a tactic that I use to improve awareness, because they've got extra people watching and listening.
Right. And reading the room is, I mean, that's a big thing. That's
For sure, and something that is not my best skill. So people need to tell me what they want rather than me trying to work that out.
Right. He
So-
said reading people is a big thing, and he's
Oh.
not. That's a skill he's learning on.
Yeah, reading people, raising personal self-awareness on reading people is huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna have to do one of these when we're not 10 minutes before going live, so we can go through all of this and figure out why
Why you
something has
can hear-
gotten changed
You
somewhere.
can hear something and I can't, and
Well, that and why we can't hear it on Facebook half the time, and
but I
something
think we
got-
fixed that this morning.
well,
now,
yes, but
now
I
I'm
can
not
hear in
hearing.
my headphones, but you can't hear in yours.
You're just special.
I-
You're the
I know
you're the
that.
leader of this outfit, so I'm just here along anyway. You
Really?
need to be able to hear it.
I'm the leader. Is that what you just said?
Yes, you are. You're the leader of this outfit.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna have to do one of these when we're not, and figure out. There's something in here that got changed somewhere.
Yeah,
Anyway, now that we're aware of it,
we are aware of it. What are we going to do about it? But David's right. I mean, personal awareness, when you're a speaker, when you're a trainer, when you're even just working with people one-on-one, and being able to walk up to somebody and being aware of how they respond to you, their body language. You know, I was at the Governor's Water Conference this week, and there's a couple of people that don't necessarily agree with me on things. That's hard to believe, isn't
that
it?
is really hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. And
That could be a podcast in itself.
so there was a couple of people there who don't necessarily agree with me on things. And when I went up and talked with them, and I did go ahead and talk with them. I mean, that's just who I am. And as through our conversation, you could tell that there was this tension in our conversation. And the most important thing that anybody can do is to be aware of it, number one, and then number two, address that tension and do your best, not just to address it like head on, not like a bull in a bull to bull. You know, that's not how you do it. It's you know, you recognize that there's tension and you try to lower that. You want to reduce that tension as much as possible. And that's what I do. It's recognizing it and then addressing the conversation, your tonality, your questions, the tone behind your questions. There's the process of how you move that tension down is huge. And it ended up being a really, really great conversation. We left shaking hands. We left with an agreement to, catch up on a later date. But without that recognizing of the tension, there was no way to address that.
You know,
Right.
it just makes me wonder how many people see you walking towards them and they go, oh, crap. Comes Kylan.
Wow. How many people? Wow. How should I take that?
Can you read that? Can you read that when you're walking over there?
Wow. How cool is that?
I'm sure there's some that go, oh, great, there's Kylan. He's coming over to talk to us. Woohoo.
Well, it's, sometimes my opinion's not always that well accepted.
And as long as you understand it's your opinion,
That is, yeah.
it is your opinion. But
There's,
man, we could go all day talking about this, but
this
we
is
can't do that.
this is a whole series of podcasts, right?
I mean, this could be, yeah, cutting the tension. That would be. Can you tell when I'm tense?
You really want me to answer that live over a broadcast?
Okay, let me ask you this question: is it easier to tell when I'm tense or when I'm not tense?
Well,
Self-awareness.
self-awareness. That's right.
So we're gonna wrap this up. We're talking about knowing yourself. I go back to and this is a story you guys have heard probably a million times about me, is, when Alyssa graduated, I didn't know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still working on it. It's been 10 years now, and I still am trying to figure me out. But I didn't know who I was. I put everything into you and the kids, and I didn't know what I wanted. And so I'm learning. I'm learning all the time.
Yep.
And but before we end this, I do want to kind of talk about it as Thanksgiving week
It is.
and being very thankful. And there's mornings that I wake up, and not that I forget what I should be thankful for, but I kind of take it for granted. Even the little things. And so I think this week, for me, it shouldn't just be this week, but reflecting on the things that God's given us and where we're at and what we're doing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so,
Yep. Being thankful is another place to be aware. Are we aware of the things that we should be thankful for every day? Thankful for you, our family. The things that I'm very, very thankful for. Sometimes are the things that we should be most thankful for, the things we take the most granted for, right? And it's good to have that awareness of that truth. If we're not thankful and very, very aware of certain elements of the world around us, we're going to miss it. We're gonna
well,
miss it.
we live in the lies.
We do. It's very easy to, and it's very, very important that we have that conscious awareness around that. Can we do a little promotion as we land this?
If you would like to, sure.
I think part of you know as well as I do that some of the things that really impacted our life, our marriage, was the disc. And even though we're aware of certain things and our differences of personality, it's hard sometimes for us to truly focus in and build personal development around that. I think that's fairly challenging. But that first step was getting that assessment to really know who we are, right? And I think you would agree with that.
I do. I very much do.
So I'm gonna challenge anybody that's listening to this. If you have your own DISC assessment, maybe you'd like to have one for your family, for your wife, for your kids. You want to just get to know your family a little better. You want to learn how to communicate better with your coworkers, with your friends, with your family members. If you want a DISC assessment, they can reach out to you directly, right?
They can.
And get a DISC assessment. It's a relatively low cost. I think it's like $50 to have a DISC assessment done for yourself. $50 per assessment, and it's a great way to really raise some personal awareness around you and who you are, and it's a great way to just be able to learn how to better connect and communicate with people, and learn how to connect and communicate with your loved ones, especially those ones that are closest to you.
The communication part is huge. That's huge. I mean, that was what was big for me
Yep.
with in our relationship. And not to say that we have it perfectly down, but I know and I'm aware of how we need to have conversations, and a little bit more aware of
Yep.
what you need from me when we have those conversations.
Yeah. Well, it's not always easy, and that's the thing. Because life is hard, we're two different people living in a life together. Sometimes I look at this and think God has a sense of humor. He takes these people and puts them together to say, let's see what happens. This is like a little explosion waiting to happen. And at the same time, we have to be really good at learning how to do that. So, okay. Sounds good. Well, Rebecca, I greatly appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for all that you are doing, and we'll come back here and we'll jump on this again here one of these days.
All right, everybody, you have a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you next Monday.
Yep. Next Monday, what is our topic next Monday? Do you have that readily available?
I do not off the top
Okay.
of my head.
Then we'll put some notification out. All right, my friends. God bless. Make it awesome. And yes, we'll see you here next week.
Bye.